Greetings, my dear viewer. You're on the channel The Price of Cheating. The channel is for those who appreciate traditional family values and condemn adultery. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. Sophia was the first to express her concern. Is everything okay between you and Mom? It seems like you're drifting apart. I tried to give her a reassuring smile, though she was already 23 and told her everything was fine. But as I said those words, doubt started creeping in. Was everything really okay? I had always trusted Susan, my wife of 27 years, without question. But Sophia wasn't wrong. Something was off. No marriage is perfect, but ours had always seemed solid. At least that's what I thought. However, after Sophia moved out, it felt like Susan and I had lost a part of the closeness we once had. I made a lot of efforts, suggested dinners, weekend trips together, or just spending more time with each other. Her response was always something like, "That sounds great, Reese, but I'm booked for the next few weeks. How about next month?" It seemed like Susan was more involved in her social events, charity functions, and hobbies than in our relationship. She often had lunch or dinner out, without me. And if even Sophia noticed the distance between us, perhaps things were worse than I had imagined. Susan always looked dazzling, stylish, and radiated warmth wherever she went. As for me, I wasn't in bad shape either. Successful career, stable income, and I kept myself fit, even though I was nearing 52. My thoughts drifted back to happier times. I remembered our wedding day. Almost perfect, except for the slightly awkward best man speech, which included some wild stories from my bachelor party. Funnily enough, I don't remember much from that night. But one thing stuck out clearly. At Susan's bachelorette party, there had been a strange moment. Her best friend, Alexander Brown, was there with her and her girlfriends. At the time, I didn't think much of it. They had always been close, and for some reason, I assumed that Alexander might be gay. There had never been any signs of a romantic partner, male or female. They often went out for drinks or lunch together, and though it bothered me a little, I eventually decided to bring it up with Susan. She brushed off my concerns, assuring me there was nothing romantic between them and there never would be. I had no reason not to believe her. Susan always took pride in her honesty and straightforwardness. After our wedding, we moved to a new city for better career opportunities, and life moved on. We both made new friends, and I wasn't opposed to Susan seeing Alexander less frequently, although they continued to keep in touch from time to time. The years passed, and 4 years after the wedding, our daughter Sophia was born, our only child. Susan easily embraced her role as a mother, and it seemed we were both content. But after Sophia moved out, Alexander found a job near our home, and Susan seemed pleased to rekindle her connection with him. Their dinners and meetings became more frequent. Now, I couldn't shake Sophia's words from my mind. She was right. There was a distance between Susan and me. I felt neglected, and Sophia's absence didn't help. Looking at photos of Susan and Alexander on social media didn't bring me peace either. Some comments even asked if Alexander was her husband. Everything reached its peak at Susan's 49th birthday party, which we hosted at our house. That evening, Susan hardly left Alexander's side, laughing and chatting with their mutual friends all night. To an outsider, it might have looked like they were a couple. Even our neighbor, Madison, noticed. She quietly approached me, her face showing concern. "Reese, are you okay? You seem a little distant tonight." I tried to brush it off, but Madison persisted, and eventually I opened up. "Do you think everything is okay between Susan and me?" I asked uncertainly. "I know Alexander is just a friend, but if you and I spent that much time together, wouldn't we become something more?" Madison thought for a moment. "Maybe," she answered cautiously. "Friendships can evolve." Shortly after, Susan approached me, her gaze sharp. "What were you talking about with Madison? And what's this feeling like you're being ignored?" I sighed. "I just said that tonight my wife found time for everyone, except me. We're hosting guests, Reese. I can't be by your side the entire time." "But you weren't with anyone else either," I countered. "You spent the whole evening with Alexander." Her eyes flashed with irritation. "What are you even talking about? You're being ridiculous and childish." "We're just friends. His gender doesn't matter," she insisted firmly. Really? I replied, tension evident in my voice. Because it seems to me there's something more between you two. I can't shake the feeling that you're hiding something else. There's nothing like that, she snapped, irritation flashing in her eyes. You're blowing this out of proportion. She spun on her heel and left without another word. Perfect. Out of all days, I picked her birthday for an argument. Guilt washed over me, but the irritation still gnawed at me. We remained silent for the rest of the evening, and nothing changed in the following week. I tried to apologize, but my words felt hollow. Susan seemed completely unbothered. Then, in one of the rare moments we actually talked, she casually mentioned that Alexander had invited her for the weekend. Was she testing how far she could push it? The fact that I even thought that showed how broken our connection was. When trust is shattered, rebuilding it feels nearly impossible. Are you serious? After everything that's been going on between us, this is your choice? We're just friends who enjoy spending time together. It's not a big deal. I just need a little break, she explained calmly, as if that could make everything right. Really? I muttered bitterly. I suggested plenty of things for us to do, and you rejected every single one of them. But you made time for this, I added, feeling the irritation grow. When are you going to take a break from us? Susan lowered her eyes. We're going next weekend, to Milan. That hit hard. So you've already made up your mind, the city we dreamed about for years, and suddenly you find time. How convenient. Her voice softened as if she were trying to minimize the damage. Reese, I know you don't like it, but it's just a short trip. There's nothing romantic about it. There's nothing intimate between us. You can't dictate who I'm friends with. Honestly, your jealousy is the real issue here. I don't want to control you. I never did, I said, feeling my throat tighten with emotion. But yes, I am jealous. He's getting the best of you, your time, your energy, all of it. You're emotionally attached to him, and now trips together too. You're misunderstanding everything. We're not dating. I love you, not him, she replied, almost defensively. Do you really love me? I asked, doubting. Because it doesn't feel that way. Do you talk to him about us? About our relationship? She hesitated, clearly flustered. Sometimes. He helps me understand your point of view, helps me think things through. And how's that working out? I said sarcastically. I doubt he sees things the way I do. You're even further away from me now than before. Do you talk to him about our intimate life too? Not really. Just briefly. Come on, Susan. Even you must see that's a line you shouldn't cross. That's personal. You share more with him than you do with me. It feels like you're in a relationship with him, not with me. That's not true, she replied with desperation in her voice. I'm still your wife, but I can't just abandon him. You're already leaving, I said coldly. You made the decision without me. Since when did my opinion stop mattering? You matter, she whispered, but the words felt hollow. No, what matters is you and Alexander, not me, I said. As the date of her departure approached, it seemed like even she started having doubts, but her resolve didn't waver. By the time she left that Friday morning, I was relieved to be at work, avoiding the awkward goodbye. Later, all I received was a simple message, a brief, impersonal farewell. I love you, and every moment we spend together is priceless to me. I'll be back before you even notice I'm gone. I'll call you later. Those were my last words to her, but when she left, a storm of emotions overwhelmed me. I hesitated, unsure whether I should go to a bar to drown out the noise in my head or visit my sister Tracy. We often argue, but when things get serious, she's always ready to defend me, even if it means redirecting her anger towards Susan for my sake. In the end, I did neither. Instead, I stayed home, alone with my thoughts, letting the silence seep into my mind as I reflected on the state of our marriage. Decisions had to be made. I knew it couldn't go on like this. That evening, Susan called. I almost didn't answer, but I picked up, trying to speak in a steady voice. Hello? Hi, dear. We arrived safely and the hotel is just amazing. I just wanted to let you know, she said warmly. Thank you for telling me, I replied, feeling my voice turn indifferent. At least now I know you're okay, I added after a pause. She continued, "Today we'll spend the day exploring the city." "Sounds like you're having fun," I mumbled, feeling the sting of her visiting places we once dreamed of going together. "I'll make a wish for us to come here together someday," she said, trying to lift my spirits. "It won't be the same now, Susan," I quietly said. "This was something we were supposed to experience together." "Please, Reese, don't start another argument," she sighed. "I regret how things have turned out, and I'm sorry I left the way I did. But I can't stop thinking about you. I promise, nothing is happening between us. Nothing inappropriate." Her words sounded as if she were speaking to a child. "But you're still in another country with another man, Susan. That means something," I threw back. Her voice grew irritated. "You're just impossible." And then the call ended. Loneliness engulfed me. Saturday night passed with no further calls. Social media offered no relief. Milan looked enchanting, and scrolling through those posts only worsened my mood. Some of our relatives even asked where I was, and the answer was always the same: out with friends for the weekend. Sophia, my daughter, saw the posts and called, shocked when I confirmed her mother was indeed in Milan with another man. I told her about my conversation with Susan, explaining how her mother had planned the trip despite my feelings. Upset, Sophia wanted to talk to her, but I insisted she stay out of it. "It's complicated, Sophia," I said. "Your mother thinks I'm just being overly suspicious, that I'm making a big deal out of nothing." Sophia hesitated. "But Dad, maybe she's right. She's allowed to have friends. People travel with friends. Are you sure you're not just overreacting?" I struggled to keep my frustration in check. "Sophia, please, don't get involved. There's more going on here than you or your mother understand." When Susan returned home on Sunday, she tried to hug and kiss me, but I didn't respond warmly. I didn't push her away, but my reaction was cold, distant. We tried to talk, but the words didn't flow naturally. Everything felt strained. Conversations that once were easy and light had now turned into a battle. She looked as awkward as I felt. "I'm sorry I didn't call yesterday. I was so down. I hate that we keep fighting. I missed you more than I can express, but I had every right to go on this trip. We need to have a serious talk, Reese, to figure out where we stand." "Talk? Or are you just trying to make me see things from your perspective?" I asked bitterly. "What if I decided to go with Madison for a weekend to the Caribbean? How would you feel about that?" Her expression showed I'd surprised her. "That's not the same. Madison is divorced." "And Alexander is single," I noted. "So what? Madison has feelings for you," she retorted. "Are you saying Alexander doesn't have feelings for you?" I pressed, watching her discomfort. "Has he ever told you he's in love with you?" She looked shocked. "What? No, we've never even thought about something like that." But there was uncertainty in her eyes. "But you know he loves you, don't you?" Riz stared at her intently, his voice tense. "You understand what I'm saying, right? The way he pays attention to you, how he listens. There's clearly more going on than you're admitting." His words hung in the air, filled with unspoken truths. "That's why I can't just let this go. Think about it. Feeling something for someone for so long, knowing it will never grow into anything more. You can't keep both of us in your life, Susan," he added, his tone even but tinged with frustration. "If you keep him around, you're just holding on to the past. Who knows? Maybe this weekend he'll meet some charming woman and you'll be left clinging to him. It's affecting us. Right now, I feel like you're pushing me away." "We've always been independent, strong people, Riz," Susan responded softly, but there was a defensive edge to her voice. "We've never relied on each other for everything." But her answer barely touched the growing irritation inside him. He sighed bitterly, his thoughts spilling out in a surge of resentment. "I can't accept that the woman who should care about me the most is putting her friend first. You spend so much energy on everyone else, especially Alexander and your girlfriends, and there's nothing left for us." When he showed up at our door and asked to come in, I was shocked. "She's not here, Riz," he said when Alexander arrived at their doorstep. "She's at work." "I know," Alexander replied calmly. "I came to see you." Riz's suspicions deepened. "Of course, you're her confidant. I suppose you know everything we've been talking about." She's my friend, Alexander said, trying to be reassuring. You don't have to worry. If I were a woman, we wouldn't be having this conversation. His voice was steady, but Riz felt there was something more beneath the surface. Don't fool yourself. Even if you think it means nothing, it's still a problem if we're drifting apart and no longer sharing our lives. Riz finally asked the question that had been tormenting him. What do you two talk about? Alexander shrugged slightly. Oh, everything. Ideas, thoughts, plans, hopes. All of that, huh? Riz's voice dripped with sarcasm. And probably a lot more too. Silence settled between them as Riz tried to process what had been said. That's what I miss, he finally admitted. We used to talk like that. Now it's all about the house, bills, family matters. Alexander listened quietly before noting, You still seem to have a good time when you go out for dinner or lunch together. Riz nodded. Yes, of course, I enjoy her company, but it's supposed to be fun. Do you know how many times I've tried to organize something romantic for her? But now it feels like I've lost the woman I used to dream about. Alexander paused, letting Riz's words sink in. Finally, Riz shook his head. You have a better connection with her than I do. Riz, Alexander urged, just talk to her. Tell her how you really feel. She loves you. You know that. I've tried. Riz's voice was full of frustration. But she always reduces it to jealousy or control. She thinks I'm obsessed with sex or trying to dominate her. It hasn't helped. She's already gone. Don't say that, Alexander insisted. Susan would be devastated if she knew you felt this way. She truly loves you. Riz let out a bitter laugh. I never thought it was this bad. I always thought it was just me being paranoid. Trying to help, Alexander suggested, I could stop seeing her if that would help. I don't want to cause problems between you. Riz looked at him with a mix of gratitude and disappointment. That's a generous offer, especially considering how much you care about her. But you'd be giving up something she doesn't even want to change. She chooses you every time. The reality of their situation hung over them like a heavy weight, impossible to ignore. You're a better friend to her than she is a wife to me, Riz said quietly, but the truth was undeniable. After that, he walked Alexander to the door, his patience worn thin. And Alexander, he added with a final warning, don't come here again. Next time I won't be so polite. Later that evening, Susan approached Riz, her expression serious. Alexander said he came to talk to you, she began cautiously. He didn't mean to upset you. If he had known, he wouldn't have suggested that trip. He admitted he takes up too much of my time. Riz's face darkened. So you told him everything we talked about, huh? And then what? You met with him today to discuss it all after our conversation? Now do you understand why I feel like a stranger in my own marriage? But Susan saw things differently. She continued, still focused on Alexander, unaware of the growing rift between them. When I tried to suggest that over time you might be able to overcome this, Alexander dismissed my words as nonsense, reminding me how much I relied on you. Funny, isn't it? How his words seem to carry more weight than mine. But is it really surprising? Susan continued in a sharp tone. No one, including you, has the right to dictate my decisions. I'm not denying that I've been lost lately with my priorities scattered, but there's nothing appealing or romantic about that. If I truly believed you were having an affair with him, I wouldn't have hesitated to throw you out of the house. And yet, here we are, without proof of any physical infidelity, and you still place him above us. He may be your best friend, but to me, he is no one, and it's tearing us apart. Just look at where we are now, Susan. What you really need to ask yourself is, why aren't you with him? You always seem happier when you're together, barely noticing my presence. Before that trip with him, everything was only about what the two of you wanted with no regard for my feelings. This isn't love, Susan. It's blatant disrespect. I'm sorry. I really do love and respect you, but you always seemed so unshakable, so reliable. But that's not the full picture, Susan. What we had was a source of strength for me. We were supposed to be a team, supporting each other. Here's a challenge for you. How about not mentioning this conversation to Alexander, though I'm sure he'll ask? Forget it. I've had enough. How about you start showing some respect for our relationship by putting it above your friendship with him? It shouldn't be that hard, Susan. There are 3 of us in this, and I'm tired of being the perpetual outsider. Do you enjoy having 2 men fight for your attention, while the one who truly loves you is left on the sidelines? Well, I'm done. I'm leaving. I'm going to Tracy's. I've been having a great time with her. I can't even remember the last time I felt so understood and cared for. It's the complete opposite of how our marriage has felt lately. We made memories, laughed, drank together. It was the escape I needed. Spending time with my nieces and nephews, watching them grow and explore the world, I felt a peace I hadn't known in years. Susan continued to write almost every day, asking when I'd return, clearly confused but trying to keep it together. She began to regret letting everything fall apart and gradually started to see things from my perspective. Sophia, on the other hand, was furious when she found out I'd moved out. Her mother would call her constantly, crying, begging me to come back home. I agreed to meet Sophia for dinner to explain the situation. We chose a nice restaurant, only to find Susan and Alexander already seated together, laughing as if nothing had happened. The moment we saw them, I considered turning around, but Sophia wasn't having it. She stormed over to their table. "How could you?" she demanded. "You call me on the phone crying about how hard it is without Dad, and now here you are laughing with him." Sophia's words hit like a slap. Susan and Alexander froze, her face turning red with shame, while I stood back, calmly watching the scene unfold. But Sophia wasn't done. "I don't blame him for leaving you. You're selfish and completely self-absorbed." Then she turned her fury on Alexander. "And you? What do you think you're doing, trailing after a married woman for years like some pathetic puppy? Grow up and get a life. Don't you see she's just using you to stroke her ego? She doesn't even need to sleep with you to keep you on a short leash." Finally, Sophia turned to me. "Let's go." There was no need for me to say anything. I simply nodded and followed her, leaving Susan, Alexander, and the entire restaurant in stunned silence. I knew this moment was inevitable. Sophia barely made it to the car before breaking down in tears, and I helped her into the passenger seat. It took her a few moments to gather her strength and speak. "I'm sorry, Dad. You were right from the start. I just can't believe she could do that." A week later, Susan stared at her daughter in confusion, still trying to process what was happening. "What are you saying? Your father went to the Caribbean with Madison?" Her voice trembled. "Yes, Mom. And you know what? Maybe you were right all along. If it's okay for you to date someone, why shouldn't Dad have a girlfriend too?" "No," Susan said, shaking her head firmly. "That's not how it works. He can't. He promised me. He was supposed to go with me." "Well, he did say something about it," her daughter responded, "but you were too busy to notice." "We're still married," Susan snapped, anger rising in her. "He can't just take some woman and go on a trip with her. It's wrong." "Mom, calm down. It's not what you think. They're just friends." Her daughter sighed. "I understand where you're coming from, but it's different. She's not trying to win him over." She paused, and then asked quietly, "And honestly, why does it bother you so much now? You've kept your distance from Dad for so long, focusing on everything but him." "That's not what I meant," Susan mumbled quietly, her tone softening. "It's just, he was always there, even when I wasn't trying." "Maybe that's the problem," her daughter replied sharply. "Maybe you should start trying, and soon. This trip might be innocent now, but if you keep pushing him away, things will change. There are plenty of women who wouldn't hesitate to get closer to Dad." Her words struck like a blow, leaving Susan speechless, too stunned to respond to her daughter's blunt honesty. Meanwhile, Reese wondered how things had come to this. Madison had supported the plan from the start, the plan originally suggested by Sophia. It was Sophia who thought they needed a break, and Madison had agreed. This trip was a last attempt before a possible divorce. It was simple. 2 friends exploring new places. Madison was easygoing, lighthearted, with a good sense of humor, like a breath of fresh air. During the trip, her optimism became a real comfort to him. She reminded him of what he had been missing with Susan. Yet he was surprised when Susan showed up at the airport upon their return. He had expected an argument, anger, or accusations. But instead, Susan greeted Madison with unexpected politeness, catching both him and Madison off guard. "Madison," Reese began cautiously. Could you leave Susan and me for a moment? Maybe grab a coffee while we talk. We'll go home together afterward. Madison smiled at Susan, wished her well, and left, leaving Reese and Susan alone in the quiet, nearly empty airport waiting area. I'm sorry, Reese, Susan said softly. I never really understood how much I hurt you. I missed you, more than I could have imagined. Reese didn't know how to respond. Lately, Alexander had been going through a similar crisis with Sophia, forcing Reese to confront uncomfortable truths in his own marriage. I wanted you to pay attention to me, Reese, Susan admitted, her voice barely audible. But instead I pushed you away, and now I see how wrong that was. I was terrified that our marriage, our friendship, was over. Reese sighed, his emotions feeling distant. This doesn't fix everything, Susan. You've put others before me for too long. But I care about you, she said, her voice trembling. I love you. For a moment, Reese almost told her he loved her too, out of habit. But something stopped him. Was that love still there? That deep connection had felt lost for so long. Susan's face darkened, her eyes widening with fear as she sensed his hesitation. Please, Reese, she pleaded. Give me another chance. We've been married for 27 years. We can't throw all of that away because of some friendship. It's not just about that, Reese said, shaking his head. It's about respect, trust, and being a priority. You've been putting me second for years, Susan. I don't know if I can keep living like this. Tears welled up in Susan's eyes. I've messed everything up. I took you for granted, thinking you'd always be there. That trip to Milan, I convinced myself that you were just jealous, trying to control me, but I was wrong. I wanted to prove I didn't need you. But how can you call it independence? Reese replied with quiet sadness. If you've spent so much time depending on someone else. Her anxiety was evident, and her words sounded nervous, as if she was desperately trying to find the right arguments to convince me. Please, just give me a month. I'll show you. I'll prove it. I know you don't trust me right now, and I understand that. So let me prove my point. Just 1 month. That's all I'm asking for. She paused for a moment, gathering her thoughts, then continued. And if everything goes well, if you're happy, we can continue. We can extend it for another month. There was an undeniable desperation in her voice, but despite the hurriedness of her words, there was something sincere in her plea. Against my better judgment, I gave in. Though my expectations were low, I couldn't understand how she could change so drastically. No, Susan, it's over between us. I've realized I've wasted my years on the wrong woman. Madison is the one with whom I feel calm and at peace. I'm filing for divorce. Besides, I have proof that you cheated on me during your trip to Milan with Alexander. What? You were spying on me? Goodbye, Susan. I'm going to take everything away from you. While you were having fun with Alexander, you forgot about our prenuptial agreement. And one more thing. I know that Sophia is not my biological child. You and your lover are in for huge problems. Oh, no, no! Susan screamed after me. It was over. The traitors were facing legal battles, and I moved in with Madison, hoping for a happy future. This concludes the story. If you like it, then put your powerful like and subscribe to the channel. Greetings, my dear viewer. You're on the channel The Price of Cheating. The channel is for those who appreciate traditional family values and condemn adultery. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. William arrived at his country house on Wednesday morning, around 11 o'clock. It had been a week since he was last here, and his only plan was to gather a few things before leaving again. He assumed that Penelope, his wife, would be at work. As he entered the kitchen to make himself a cup of coffee, he was struck by the sight of handcuffs and duct tape still lying on the table, just as he had left them. A kitchen towel was strewn across the floor, tossed aside after he had wiped his face. The video camera remained on its tripod next to the kitchen table, and the chair he had damaged was still overturned. Instead of brewing coffee, he decided to grab a bottle of Diet Cola from the fridge. "Where have you been?" Penelope rushed into the kitchen, her voice cutting through the air with irritation. William avoided her gaze, remaining silent as he walked past her toward the bedroom to pack his things, but she grabbed his arm. "I want to know where you've been," she insisted, her frustration palpable. He hesitated, turning to face her. This was the woman he had married 24 years ago, the one he had once loved, but now she was the source of his suffering. "Please, just let me go," he whispered. Penelope studied him, but his expression remained indifferent. His eyes were lifeless, almost empty. She released his arm, allowing him to continue. After that, she picked up the handcuffs, duct tape, and towel, carelessly tossing them into the trash. She removed the camera from the tripod, placed it on the table, and folded the tripod before heading to the bedroom. Meanwhile, William was busy filling a large suitcase on the bed. "What are you doing, William?" she asked. "I'm packing," he replied, not bothering to meet her gaze. "Another business trip?" she asked mockingly. "No," he replied curtly. "Then where are you going?" He hesitated, looking at her with a vacant expression. "Why does it matter?" "You're my husband. I have a right to know." "Penelope, you lost that right last Sunday afternoon," he responded, adding a few more items to his bag before zipping it shut. He picked up the suitcase, dragged it into the living room, and placed it by the door before heading to the office. Penelope followed closely behind him. He gathered a few documents from the desk into his briefcase, closed it, and then packed his laptop and charger into a separate bag. William went to the kitchen table and picked up the video camera. Opening it, he checked that the SD card was still in place. "Is this what you recorded on Sunday?" Penelope smirked. "A souvenir of your revenge. How thoughtful of you." William remained impassive. "For God's sake, William, talk to me," she shouted. He turned to her, a flicker of emotion breaking through his calm demeanor. "What have you done to me?" "Why are you leaving?" she demanded. William gestured for her to sit at the table. He opened his laptop bag and placed the laptop on the table, then sat down across from it, signaling Penelope to join him. When she sat down, he inserted the SD card into the laptop. "Let's watch this, and then we can talk." He pressed play. The video began with a chair pulled away from the kitchen table on the right and an empty table to the left. "Welcome home, darling. Come to the kitchen. I have a surprise for you, as I promised on the phone." William appeared on the screen, smiling. Penelope approached him, dressed in a short, sheer robe with perfectly styled hair and makeup, barefoot. She picked up the handcuffs, smiling playfully. "Sit in the chair." William smiled back at her and sat down. Penelope knelt behind him, locking the handcuffs around his wrists. Her robe opened, revealing everything underneath. She slipped her wrist into the cuff, fastened the chain to the back of the chair, and then locked her other wrist. Penelope disappeared from sight for a moment but quickly returned, placing a strip of duct tape over his mouth. Even with the tape, his smile was still evident. Standing in front of him, she let her robe fall to the floor. William's eyes lit up with excitement at the unexpected surprise. "Are you ready for your surprise?" she asked, her expression teasing. William nodded enthusiastically. "Everything's set," she declared, her voice echoing through the room. At that moment, footsteps could be heard. William turned to see who had come in. A man entered, wearing William's robe, and William's excitement quickly shifted to surprise. "Darling, you remember Joey from my work, don't you?" Penelope said, approaching Joey, loosening the belt of his robe, and letting it slip off his shoulders and onto William's lap. Joey stood there, completely naked under the robe. William paused the video and looked at Penelope with disbelief. "Why is this happening?" "You know exactly why," she answered calmly. "Penelope, I don't understand." His confusion was obvious. "Before we got married, I made you a promise. If you ever betrayed me, I would get revenge right in front of your eyes. Is that what this is? You're getting back at me?" "I kept my promise," she said indifferently. "You seriously believe I cheated on you?" he asked in disbelief. "I know you did, you idiot." "Okay, I get it. When exactly did I cheat on you?" "Don't act like you don't know. You know the time, the place, and with whom," she replied sharply. William pulled the SD card from the laptop, placed it in his bag, closed the laptop, and zipped it shut before turning to Penelope. "Either you explain what you mean, or I'm walking out of here right now." His irritation was clear. "Don't pretend like you didn't do anything wrong. While you were on that so-called business trip last week, Jerry's wife, Jill, called me. What did she say? He asked, bewildered. She told me that you and Jerry spent the whole week with a couple of escort women. Jill really said that? Yes, she did. And what proof did she have? Stop playing the victim, William. You know what you did. So you decided to get back at me by sleeping with someone right in front of me based on a phone call? From someone I trust. Yes, I did. You took her word without any real proof. I didn't need proof. Penelope, you tied me up, then slept with another man right in front of me. You humiliated me based solely on hearsay. Exactly. That's exactly what I did. William shook his head, trying to process it all. But you didn't even bother to talk to me. You made your decision and carried out your revenge without discussing it with me first? Correct. Now we're balanced. Balanced? Do you really think this evens the score? Yes, that's exactly the point. Not that it matters now, but I want to clear up a few things. Go ahead, I'm listening. I was at a conference all last week. Jerry wasn't even there. 2 months ago, he was kicked out of the group because of an affair with a colleague, and since then, he's completely disappeared from my life. During that time, I was at a conference. Every day that week, from dawn until late at night, I sat at a table on stage, participating in sessions that were all recorded. After the day's program ended, the participants would gather late into the night, strategizing for the next day. Numerous witnesses can confirm my whereabouts during that time. I stayed at the hotel until it was time to leave for the airport after the event ended. So, you deny the accusations? Absolutely. It's hard for me to accept that. I have plenty of evidence of my activities throughout the week, whereas you seem to rely on a phone call from someone who wasn't even there. That strikes me as a weak argument. Our beliefs don't change the facts. At one time, I believed I was married to a kind and loving woman, only to find out on Sunday that I was actually with someone corrupt and cruel, who values me so little that she emotionally and physically undermines me without any real proof of my guilt. Penelope remained silent. I'm leaving. Expect to hear from my lawyer in a few days. I don't plan on divorcing you. That's what this is really about, isn't it? We're even now. Penelope, I didn't betray you. Haven't you been paying attention? I'm no fool. Do you still believe your actions are justified? I believe so, yes. Then we have nothing more to discuss. Just contact Jill and find out what evidence she has. I'm genuinely curious. That said, honestly, it doesn't matter anymore. Without another word, William left the house. He returned to his hotel room and copied the video onto 3 DVDs. He had already scheduled a meeting with his lawyer and had returned to where he started the divorce process. The basis for filing the case would be infidelity. He handed the lawyer a copy of the DVD. The prenuptial agreement would hold up, backed by the evidence on the disc. William personally delivered the filed documents to Penelope. The lawyer suggested resolving some financial matters quickly, and William handled them immediately after leaving the lawyer's office. He silenced his phone and checked it when he got back to his hotel room. The first call from Penelope came about 15 minutes after he left, followed by a quiet pause of about 2 hours. After that, the calls started coming in every 5 minutes. He only listened to one voicemail, the first after the 2-hour pause. Oh my God, William, I finally got in touch with Jill. She was drunk. Please call me. I've ruined everything. Please call me. William deleted all her calls and messages without listening further, then erased her texts and emails from his phone. The notifications kept coming. When the calls came in, he watched the numbers. He also noticed calls from Penelope's father, mother, and sister. He decided to call back Sean, her father. Hi, Sean. It's William. I know who you are. I can read, you know. What the hell did you do to my daughter? I didn't do anything to her except not answer her calls. Damn it, she's a mess. What's going on? Sean, if you want to know what happened, you need to talk to Penelope. Anger consumed him. There's no point in arguing. Talk to her. William remained calm, answering politely. Did you sleep with someone else? Just talk to Penelope. You're a scoundrel. I should come over and teach you a lesson. Sean, just listen. If you really want to understand what happened, you need to talk to Penelope. I refuse to discuss this with you, Mary, or anyone else. Talk to Penelope. You're a coward. You're really letting her down, aren't you? Goodbye, Sean. William hung up. Almost immediately, Sean tried calling again, but William decided to ignore the call. Soon after, her mother, Mary, called. He deleted their voicemails before heading to dinner, then returned to his room for the night. On Thursday morning, he bought a new phone but kept the old one for now. He went to work and decided to take a significant leave. He provided his new number but asked that it be kept confidential. Reaching the outskirts of the city, he rented a small furnished apartment and signed a 1-year lease. Then William stopped by the grocery store to buy food and household supplies. By the end of the day, he had everything set up in his new home. The next morning, his lawyer contacted him. They met at the courthouse, where he signed the necessary documents. After filing the papers, he received a copy to give to Penelope. Although her copy didn't require a signature, the lawyer advised him to have an impartial witness present when handing over the document. William contacted Penelope, and they arranged to meet for lunch at a restaurant they both liked. When Penelope arrived, William was already sitting at a quiet table in the back of the room. She was well dressed, and he noticed that she looked attractive. As she approached, he stood to greet her. Penelope hugged him, but when she leaned in for a kiss, he turned his cheek. Her disappointment became clear as she settled into her seat across from him. "William, I know I made a mistake. I want us to move forward and start fresh." "I agree. It's time to let go of the past." William declined the waitress's offer. It was Lynn, a familiar face. "What would you like to drink?" she asked with a friendly smile. "2 Diet Colas," Penelope replied. "Lynn, could you stay for a moment?" William said, reaching for the divorce papers and handing them to Penelope. "Penelope, these are divorce papers. Lynn is here as a witness to confirm that you've been served." "Thank you, Lynn." Penelope's face turned pale as she looked at the documents. Lynn left to get their drinks. "William, you said you wanted to move forward and put this behind us." "That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm moving on." "But William, I made a mistake. This isn't what I meant." "Penelope, we were married for over 24 years. Until Sunday, those were the happiest years of my life. I loved you deeply. More than I've ever loved anyone, and probably ever will again." "Don't throw that away, William. Our marriage was strong." "It was, but it's not anymore. Last Sunday you destroyed our marriage and my love for you. I made a mistake. Can't you see that? Let me share what I see when I look at you or when I close my eyes. I see the woman I once adored. I see him with you at this table, hearing you say how much you enjoy it and how he's better than me. That's the image I carry now, Penelope. Not the woman I loved. You ended her that day." "William, you've completely misunderstood the situation." "Not at all. Your actions were intentional. The mistake lies in your reasoning, not in what you did. I warned you that if you ever betrayed me, I would take revenge right in front of you. You knew what could happen, and you agreed to it." "That's true. I just never thought it would come to this." "What did I say would happen if you were unfaithful?" Penelope's gaze dropped to the table. "You said we would get divorced. Did you enjoy it?" "Yes, but I didn't really betray you." William handed her a DVD. "This is for you. Here's the proof of your affair with Joey." "William, it wasn't an affair. It was revenge." Lynn returned with the drinks and took their lunch orders. "Penelope, any intimate relationship outside our marriage qualifies as an affair, and if both partners aren't in agreement, it's betrayal." "We can work this out, William. Let's go to therapy." "No, Penelope, that's not an option. You've shown a side of yourself that destroyed the woman I once adored. You broke my heart. I don't want a divorce. I'll fight for us. On Sunday, you showed me a different side of yourself. I also have a side you wouldn't want to see." "What side is that?" "The one that can match your cruelty, heartlessness, and vindictiveness from Sunday." "I refuse to justify a mistake. I will take full responsibility for my actions." "That's not who you really are, and you know it." "Funny, I was just thinking the same thing about you." "God damn it, William. It was a mistake." "No, it was a deliberate act of revenge. What did you tell your parents?" "I told them we had a misunderstanding and that we'd work it out." "A misunderstanding about what?" Penelope fell silent, her gaze lowered. "What was it about, Penelope?" I told them you had been unfaithful. You didn't tell them the whole truth. No. Why not? They wouldn't understand. Wouldn't understand what? They wouldn't see it as a mistake. Maybe I'm starting to see it now. William, I realize I was wrong. I based my actions on assumptions, not the truth. I know I hurt you deeply, but we can get through this. We can rebuild our marriage. We can overcome this. All right, let's leave this marriage behind. The woman I loved is gone. I will resist you every step of the way. I'm determined to save our marriage. There's nothing left to save. It's over. Don't force me to reveal my dark side. You won't like what you'll find. You're bluffing. Don't make me act, Penelope. Hire a lawyer. Let him review the case. Have them contact my lawyer if you have any questions. In 90 days, you'll be single, and you can be with Joey as much as you want. It's not about Joey. I'm sorry, that was uncalled for. Forgive me, I don't want to lose you. Penelope, that's exactly what you've done. The settlement seems fair. Accept it and move on. No way. Lynn served them the food, and William handed her his credit card. After a brief absence, she returned with the bill for him to sign. He signed it and stood up from the table. He hadn't even taken a bite. Enjoy your meal, Penelope. I lost my appetite last Sunday when you spat in my face. William walked out and headed home. On Tuesday, Penelope met with her lawyer. She was tough, recommended by a friend. I'm Ronnie Savage. How can I help you today? My husband is trying to divorce me. Has he already served you with divorce papers? She asked. Last Friday. May I take a look at the documents? Penelope handed her the papers. Ronnie skimmed through the first page. He's citing infidelity. Is that true? No, it's a misunderstanding. Have you had intimate relations with someone outside the marriage? Yes, but it was a mistake. Did your husband agree to you being intimate with someone else? Not specifically with this guy, but he agreed I could get revenge if he cheated. So your husband cheated, and you slept with someone in retaliation? Well, yes and no. Mrs. Givens, could you clarify? I did engage in intimacy as revenge, but later I found out that he didn't actually cheat. Your husband wasn't unfaithful, but you still sought revenge? That's correct. Mrs. Givens, that's considered infidelity. But I thought he was cheating. What evidence did you have? A friend claimed he was cheating, but it turned out she was wrong. Based on what you've told me, I see a situation where a woman had an affair for revenge based on rumors. Does he have any evidence that you were with another man? Yes. I tied him to a chair and made him watch. Then it's his word against yours. Do you have any material evidence? I recorded the whole thing on video. Do you have a copy of that recording? Penelope pulled out the DVD William had given her on Friday. Can I see it? Penelope nodded. Ronnie inserted the DVD into the player and stopped it after a few minutes. I'll need to watch the full video, but I can do that later. First, let me take a look at the claim. She began reading it. After flipping through several pages, Ronnie looked up. I see you signed a prenuptial agreement, and at first glance, it seems quite strong in terms of infidelity. If he changes the complaint to irreconcilable differences, we might be able to avoid this issue. I suspect that might be difficult. Even with the prenuptial agreement, he's offering you much more than the law typically requires. Without the prenup, you could potentially negotiate a much larger financial settlement. I don't want a financial settlement, and I don't want a divorce. I want my husband back. Have you told him that? Yes, but he hasn't even considered it. Contentious divorces can be very expensive for everyone involved. A discussion with a counselor might be helpful. Let's proceed with this plan. We should consider bringing in professionals, making it clear that if he resists, we will fight vigorously for our rights. Understood. Do you know of any secrets your husband might be hiding? Do you mean something illegal? Anything? His reputation is flawless. Has he ever shown aggression or threatened you? He's never raised his voice at me, not once. I will thoroughly review all the documents. I'll get back to you in a day or two. Does he have a copy of this DVD? Penelope nodded in acknowledgement. It was Wednesday when Ronnie contacted her. Mrs. Givens, He has a strong case. The video you recorded is highly incriminating and you don't want a judge to see it. Let's start with what we discussed. We are proposing 6 weeks of family therapy. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get my husband back. 2 days later, William's lawyer contacted him, requesting a meeting. He arrived at the office that same day. William, they are offering 6 weeks of couples therapy. What happens if I refuse? They will do everything they can to challenge us. I'm against it. What's your perspective? She's hired Ronnie. Isn't she one of the best lawyers? Is she better than you? I'm the best of the best. Are you ready to fight? I'll fight decisively if necessary. Then let's simply refuse and see how it plays out. Keep me posted. That evening, William called Penelope. Penelope, I've decided not to go through with therapy. I warned you that if you kept arguing with me, you'd see a side of me you might not like. Why are you acting this way? Just put an end to this absurd divorce and come back home. Penelope, that's not going to happen. This is your last chance to resolve this peacefully. I won't reach out again. I'm ready to stand my ground, William. I don't want a divorce. This is your choice. William hung up. The following Monday, Penelope filed a countersuit, citing irreconcilable differences and requesting everything. 2 days later, the local school board and the institution where Penelope worked received documents outlining the inappropriate behavior of 2 of their married educators, Penelope Givens and Joey Carr. The documents contained explicit images of the pair in compromising situations. That same day, an emergency closed meeting of the school board took place, and both educators were dismissed. On that day, Joey's wife received a DVD in the mail containing the names and contact details of everyone involved in the video. After watching it, she called William. Hello, is this William Givens? This is Tammy Carr, Joey's wife. Did you send me this DVD? Yes, ma'am, I'm very sorry, but I thought you should know. When was this filmed? Last Sunday at my house? Is that you on the chair? Yes. And the video is real? Absolutely. It wasn't faked. Is that woman your wife? For now, but I've filed for divorce. That's all I needed to confirm. Sorry to bother you. Tammy ended the call. Her next step was to contact a divorce attorney. The following day, Joey called Penelope, blaming her for exposing him with her act of revenge and jeopardizing his job and marriage. Despite losing her job and receiving Joey's call, Penelope refused to back down. As yet another week passed without any news from William's lawyer, he realized it was time to take decisive action. Penelope's family received a DVD in the mail, and after a brief viewing, they began questioning her, expressing their discontent. At that moment, William's old mobile phone rang. It was her sister. William, how could you do this? Penelope really loves you, she exclaimed. Mandy, her way of showing it is quite foolish. This was an act of revenge. So, she hasn't told you the whole story yet? What story are you talking about? Mandy, I never betrayed her. Someone called her claiming I was untrustworthy and she took it at face value, believing it without question. Is this her idea of revenge? William, you know Penelope isn't stupid, Mandy replied. Then ask her directly. Tell her that if she stops resisting the divorce and allows it to proceed, we can end this. If she continues to fight, things will only get worse. Can you handle that? Have you even watched the DVD? I insisted. I could only manage the beginning. Watch the whole thing, and then decide whether your sister truly loves me. Think about it. I'll do that, but I still think you should try to work things out. Mandy, you've known me since childhood. I'm not a bad person. Please just watch the DVD. All right, I'll watch it. An hour after their conversation ended, Mandy received another call. Oh, William, I'm so sorry. I see everything much more clearly now, but I still need to talk to Penelope. Tell her that if she stops fighting the divorce, everything will be resolved. If she continues to resist, things will only get more complicated. I'll tell her. Mandy arranged a face-to-face meeting with Penelope. After confirming William's version of events, she relayed his warning to her. However, Penelope remained firm in her decision. Mandy then informed their parents of Penelope's actions and William's request to withdraw the counterclaim. That evening, Penelope's parents visited her and collected copies of both legal documents. Sean, a family friend with legal expertise, reviewed the papers and the prenuptial agreement, advising Penelope to consider William's offer and quietly proceed with the divorce court. Nevertheless, Penelope stuck to her decision. Another week passed without word from his lawyer, prompting William to take more drastic measures. Penelope taught Sunday school at the same church her parents attended. Flyers with explicit images of her with another man were distributed to every cell of the church's women's association and to the pastors. The eye-catching headline read, "Should this woman be teaching your children?" On Sunday, Penelope's parents felt more like outcasts than members of the congregation. After the service, the pastor pulled them aside for a private conversation, explaining the situation and handing them a letter addressed to Penelope, stating that her services were no longer required. Along with it was a copy of the flyer. When they showed it to Penelope, she broke down in tears but still refused to withdraw her counterclaim. She reported William's actions to her lawyer, claiming that sharing the recording with her family wasn't illegal. The DVD clearly showed Penelope telling William that she made the recording for him. Since it was his property, he had every right to share it with any consenting adult. The flyers had been distributed anonymously, and without a thorough investigation, they couldn't be traced back to William. Ronnie advised her to reconsider her counterclaim, while Penelope's family continued to urge her to let it go. The situation began to take a heavy toll on their lives. Sean contacted William to express his concerns. William reiterated his demands to Sean, but Penelope remained resolute. Just a few days later, flyers started appearing among Penelope's neighbors and friends, featuring only her last name and contact information. Penelope was overwhelmed by a flood of unwanted calls and emails. Her car, driveway, and yard were littered with trash. After a week of silence, William finally decided to update his social media profile, starting with vague hints and gradually moving toward deliberately obscured images. Just a few days later, Penelope received an email from an adult website thanking her for a video featuring her. When a news crew appeared at her door, it pushed her to contact her lawyer and withdraw her countersuit. She requested a meeting with William, who agreed but insisted that it take place at his lawyer's office. They met a few days later, and Penelope appeared as a shadow of her former self. She had lost weight and looked utterly exhausted, as if she hadn't slept for days. "William," Penelope said softly, sitting across from him, "I've dropped the countersuit. You've won." "No, William," she continued. I've lost. I've lost the man I loved. I've lost my marriage. I've lost everything that mattered." "There's a side of you I never saw before," he said quietly. "I wish you hadn't seen it," she replied. "What can I say? I can't face anyone. Finding a job seems impossible, and staying here is unbearable. Everyone treats me like I'm trash." "We've both been through so much, haven't we?" he asked. "Yes, William, we have," she answered. Tears glistened in his eyes, threatening to spill. "I know it's too late, but is there any way to fix what I've done other than wishing I could turn back time?" "No, not really," she replied as he stood to leave. Penelope stood up and opened her arms for a final embrace, tears streaming down her face. William hesitated, stepped toward her, but then stopped. Tears rolled down his cheeks. "I can't, Penelope. It would betray the woman I once loved." He lingered for a moment before heading to the door. As his hand touched the doorknob, he turned back to her. "There is one thing that might help," he said quietly. "What is it, William?" she asked, her heart racing. "Just once you could say, 'I'm sorry.'" "Just once." With those words, William left the office and walked out of her life. This concludes the story. If you like it, then put your powerful like and subscribe to the channel. They laughed behind his back. His wife, her sister, her mother, his best friend, a whole web of betrayal woven from lies and contempt. But every deception leaves traces, and when the truth surfaces, the world collapses with a deafening roar. He was loyal, reliable, willing to sacrifice for his family. They mistook it for weakness. But they were wrong. 5 days ago, he found messages that exposed everything. Lies, betrayal, financial schemes, and behind it all stood his own family. Now, Armed with evidence and fury, he's ready to tear their plans apart and burn their rotten empire of deceit to the ground. They thought he would stay silent. He will become their worst nightmare. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watched this video from. Now let's get started. There was a time when I believed that love and trust were enough, that being a good man would be its own reward. I held on to that illusion like it could protect me. I know better now. My name is Carter Buford, and what you're about to read isn't just a story of betrayal. It's the unraveling of a life I thought I understood. Just 5 days ago, I stood motionless in my kitchen, Brielle's iPad in my hands, staring at a message thread I was never meant to see. It was a chat titled Family Only, shared between my wife Whitney, her sister Lana, and their mother Aveline. The messages stretched back for years, and with each one, the blade drove deeper. "He's so passive," Whitney had written. Lana responded with a mocking, "He doesn't have it in him to stand up for himself," followed by a laughing emoji. Then Aveline, without a shred of conscience, "Drain his accounts while he's too dumb to notice. He won't stop you. He's weak." I saw now how they ridiculed me, for choosing to turn down a career-advancing promotion so I could spend more time with Brielle, for letting Whitney handle the finances, thinking I was being a supportive partner. While I believed I was building a life with my family, they saw me as an easy mark. The spa weekends, the designer bags, the endless home projects, it was all a cover. And the worst part wasn't even the money. It was how completely they despised me for loving them without question. I should have walked away right then, filed for divorce, slammed the door shut, started over. But something inside me fractured in a way I didn't recognize. I couldn't just leave. Not like that. They needed to know what it costs to break someone who gave everything without asking for anything in return. I had spent my life being the reliable one, the steady presence, the man who stayed calm no matter what, and they never once considered what would happen if that man finally decided he'd had enough. That night, while Whitney slept beside me, unaware, I stared at the ceiling, empty, hollow, enraged. My heart pounded like war drums, my hands curled into fists. There was a fire rising in me I'd never felt before. My thoughts went to Brielle, my daughter, the one pure thing I had left. I knew then. Whatever storm was coming, I had to shield her from it, from all of it. From her mother's manipulation, from Aveline's games, from the twisted family legacy they were grooming her for. I made a vow, one I would carry to the bitter end. They would pay for every word in that vile thread. 2 days later, Brielle tugged gently on my sleeve. Her innocent question shattered any lingering hope I had that I was wrong. "Daddy, who's the man that comes to see Mommy when you're not home?" I froze. My phone was still in my hand. "What man, honey?" "The tall one. He wears a ring like yours and Mommy's. He always brings her coffee. They go into her room. They laugh a lot. I think she called him Tristan?" The name struck like a lightning bolt. Tristan Reed, my oldest friend, my best man at our wedding, the guy who introduced me to Whitney at Lana's party, the one who always seemed to be around. Too much, now that I thought about it. And I remembered how Whitney would light up when he entered the room. I had ignored it, rationalized it. But now the pieces fell together, one by one, and the image they formed was devastating. She was sleeping with him. Nausea hit me like a wave. After Brielle skipped off to watch her cartoons, I walked quietly into the living room and tucked a motion-activated camera behind a vase. Whitney was too comfortable, too sure I'd never notice anything. The next day, around noon, the alert came through. The camera had picked something up. I opened the feed and watched, my breath caught in my throat as Tristan's silver truck rolled into the driveway. He strolled inside like he owned the place. They kissed in the entryway, bold, unashamed, not even pretending to hide. And there, on his finger, the ring he still wore, the same one his wife Nora had placed there on their wedding day. They vanished into the bedroom for 2 hours. When he left, he looked like a man who'd just finished a business meeting, calm, smirking. I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I just stared at the screen, the coldest kind of rage crawling up my spine. My lawyer once described what Whitney was doing as financial abuse. Now, it was betrayal layered with something even darker, emotional manipulation from both my wife and the one person I'd trusted like a brother. Later that night, I overheard Whitney on the phone with Aveline. Her voice was smug. "He won't say a word. Once his bonus lands next week, we'll file. I'll get the house. He's too weak to fight." Her laughter was cruel. Her confidence, unforgivable. That was the last time I allowed myself to feel powerless. I decided right then. I'd let them believe they'd won. I'd let them circle closer to their prize. And when the moment came, I'd gut their plans from the inside. My silence would be the sharpest blade in my arsenal. I went to my attorney, Ms. Pierce, and laid everything out. Videos, screenshots, chat histories. She reviewed it all, her face hardening as she read. "This isn't just a divorce case," she said quietly. "There's serious fraud here. If you want to pursue charges, you'd have grounds." "I don't want it to stop," I told her. My voice had changed, deeper, cold. "I want justice. I want them to feel what I felt." She studied me for a long moment. "I get it. Just promise me. Whatever you do, keep it legal, keep it smart." I nodded. I wasn't going to break the law, but I would use every inch of it to burn everything they'd built, down to the ashes. Tristan wouldn't get the benefit of a private talk. No explanation, no apology. He didn't deserve a peaceful ending. They'd mistaken my decency for weakness for the last time. Now, Aveline's big family dinner was coming up. Everyone would be there. Whitney, Lana, Aveline, their closest friends, the inner circle. It was the perfect time, the perfect place. They didn't know it yet, but the reckoning was already on the calendar. They met every month, without exception, a ritual wrapped in pleasantries, laced with subtle digs, and camouflaged under the illusion of flawless lives. This time, however, I didn't come for the small talk. I had a plan. I'd arranged for Brielle to stay overnight at a friend's place. She couldn't be anywhere near what was about to unfold. I'd agonized for weeks over how to reveal their betrayal, until the perfect chance presented itself. It began with a run-in at the supermarket. Gavin, Lana's husband, found me in the fruit section. "You coming to dinner, man?" he asked, his voice polite but with a tension behind it. I couldn't tell if he knew what Lana had been up to, diverting money from my accounts into hidden reserves. "Wouldn't miss it," I replied, keeping my tone light. He paused for a beat, studying me, then gave a strained laugh. "All right, see you there." He had no idea what I was walking into that house with. None of them did. Saturday arrived. I parked in the semicircle driveway of Aveline's lavish home, a monument to affluence that was, in truth, a stage for deceit and hypocrisy. Manicured hedges, pristine brickwork, towering pillars, everything about the estate screamed prestige, but beneath the polish was rot. Lana greeted me at the threshold. "Carter," she cooed, her grin too wide, too tight. "So glad you made it." "Whitney's helping Mom with the roast. Tonight's going to be wonderful," she added, voice full of fake cheer. "Looking forward to it," I said, keeping things neutral. Inside, Aveline and Whitney floated around the kitchen like actresses hitting their marks. Aveline exuded authority, head high, posture impeccable, every motion dripping with command. Whitney, in a breezy sundress and flushed from pretend effort, hadn't lifted a finger in months, unless it served her own ends. "Carter," Whitney said in her usual syrupy tone, the one she saved for when she wanted something. So sweet of you to come straight from work. Go get comfortable. Lona'll bring you something to drink." I nodded, offered a shallow smile, and took the glass of iced tea Lana handed me. Her eyes met her mother's in a fleeting glance, quick, purposeful. Something was brewing. I could feel it. Once we were all gathered at Aveline's sprawling dining table, she naturally took the reins. "Let's each share a little something from our week," she suggested, as if presiding over a royal court. "Whitney, why don't you start?" Whitney gave her hair a casual toss and launched into her act. "I've been tying up the last details for my business launch," she said, pretending to be humble. "It was supposed to be a secret, but I just can't keep it in anymore. It's going to be huge." She reached out and placed her hand on my arm, and I know my incredible husband will be right there supporting me. There wasn't a trace of modesty in her voice, just expectation. They thought I was still the oblivious husband, their easy mark. What they didn't know was that I'd spent months compiling evidence, covert footage, bank statements, everything neatly filed away in Miss Pierce's office, ready for court. But tonight wasn't just about legal proof. Tonight was about making them see the man they never thought I could be. The doorbell rang, sharp, sudden. Before anyone else moved, I stood. "I'll get it." Outside, the courier I'd hired stood with a stack of manila envelopes. He handed them over without a word and vanished into the darkness. I carried them back inside, quiet and deliberate, and placed one in front of each person at the table. "Before dessert," I said evenly, "I have something to share." Aveline narrowed her eyes. "What is this?" I gestured calmly. "Please, open them." They hesitated at first, but curiosity overpowered caution. As they flipped through the contents, the color drained from their faces. Gasps broke the silence. A few choice expletives followed. Whitney's hands began to tremble. Lana sat frozen, mouth agape. Aveline's expression flattened into something cold and unreadable. Even Gavin looked like he'd been hit with a brick. He thumbed through the pages, eyes wide with disbelief. It was all there, detailed withdrawals masked as household costs, group chats where they mocked me and plotted how to bleed me dry, surveillance photos of Tristan entering my home when I was away at work. Time-stamped, dated, messages from Lana and Whitney planning the timing of a divorce to align with my end-of-year bonus. Aveline orchestrating it all behind the curtain like some twisted conductor. Lana finally whispered, her voice barely audible. "What is all this?" Whitney looked like she might burst into tears. "Carter, how could you do this? This was private." "So was the money you stole," I replied, my voice like steel. "And the affair with my best friend. But you brought those things into my world, so I made them mine to deal with." Aveline slammed her hand down, the sound echoing. "You had no right." "I had every right," I shot back, leaning forward so she could see it in my eyes. The resolve, the fury, the clarity. "You thought you could strip me bare, ruin my name, and smile while doing it? I've done what you never expected. I paid attention." Gavin's voice cut in, stunned. "Lana, these withdrawals, are these from our accounts?" She winced. Her voice came out as a breath. "It's not what it looks like, Gavin." But we all knew it was exactly what it looked like. "You've been moving his money. My money." His hand shook as he brandished a stack of papers, fury radiating from his trembling grip. "A second mortgage on our house?" Lana didn't respond. Her eyes locked onto mine, blazing with a storm of disbelief and fury. "You bastard!" she spat, her voice low and venomous. "You've ruined everything." "No, Lana," I said, my voice steady but cold. "You're the one who tore it apart. I just made sure you finally pay the price." Then a piercing doorbell cut through the thick silence, ringing out from the front hall like a warning bell. My stomach turned to stone. Someone else. Another uninvited presence. Deep down, I knew who it would be. I'd felt it in my bones, even if I hadn't asked him to come. Whitney shot to her feet, nervously smoothing the front of her dress. I'll get it, she stammered, already halfway to the door. I followed her. The others trailed behind, heavy-footed and wary. Whitney yanked the door open, and there he stood, Tristan Reed, clad in a worn black leather jacket, hair a mess, face taut with guilt and defiance. "Whitney," he said quietly, eyes softening. "I need to talk." Then he noticed me behind her. His posture stiffened, voice tightening. "Carter, I know how this must look." Rage surged through me like electricity. This man had once been like a brother. I could still hear his voice in childhood jokes, midnight talks, the toasts at my wedding. And now, all those memories were tainted. I clenched my jaw until it hurt. "What are you doing here, Tristan?" I asked, my voice calm, unnervingly so. He flicked a glance toward Whitney, fumbling. I just wanted to twist things again?" I cut in, my tone rising. "To walk into my house like you didn't sleep with my wife while I was gone?" Panic flickered across his face. "It's not like that. Whitney told me you two were basically over." "Don't you dare lie to me." My voice was a snarl now. "I've got you on tape sneaking into my bedroom while I was at work. My daughter asked why Mommy's special friend keeps visiting." His face went ghost pale. "Carter, just listen." "I've heard enough," I shouted, surging forward, barely registering Whitney's cries behind me. "The only thing that matters is this. You betrayed me." The part of me that once forgave, made excuses, looked away. That man died the moment I saw my so-called best friend in my bed, in my home, with my wife. My hands balled into fists. Tristan didn't react fast enough. I rammed into him with my shoulder, driving him back into the frame of the door. The crack of wood splintering echoed through the house. Lana screamed. Aveline's voice rang out, sharp and urgent. "Stop it! This is insane!" But I was too far gone. I grabbed his jacket and swung hard, knuckles slamming into his jaw. Pain tore through my hand, but I barely noticed. He reeled, staggering backward. I didn't hesitate. Another punch, this one to his cheek, sent him tumbling down the steps. "Carter, have you lost your mind?" he cried. "No!" I growled, eyes blazing. "I've finally come to my senses." All those years, grinning across the backyard, laughing behind my back, pretending to be loyal. He thought I'd never push back? He reached out, maybe to beg, maybe to grab me. I didn't care. I yanked away and kicked the back of his leg. He dropped with a grunt, swearing under his breath. I stood over him, chest heaving, shaking with fury. Whitney screamed, "Stop! You'll kill him!" I turned on her, eyes hard. "Interesting," I snapped. "You never seemed that worried about me. Just him." Every part of me buzzed with fury and heartbreak. Tristan coughed violently, blood splattering the front steps. Still, it wasn't enough. I could still see it. His smug face at the grill, his mocking laugh while he lay with my wife. The images drove me over the edge. I bent down, fisted a chunk of his hair, and hissed, "You're done, do you hear me? You're finished." Before I could strike again, strong arms locked around me, pulling me back. Gavin and another pair of hands fought to restrain me. "Carter, stop!" Gavin panted. "He's not worth this." Tristan slumped against the railing, dabbing blood from his mouth, eyes wide with shock. He'd never seen me like this. None of them had. They hauled me back inside, my breath ragged, the fire in my chest still raging. Whitney rushed to Tristan's side, blind to the wreckage around her. Lana was sobbing uncontrollably. Aveline shouted in a panic, "I'm calling the police." "Go ahead," I spat. "Let's see how they feel about the evidence I have on your entire family. Do it, Aveline." She froze, phone halfway to her ear. "You're threatening us?" she whispered. "Threatening?" I laughed, low and bitter. "No, I'm just stating facts. You call the cops, your family burns, fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy, take your pick. Yes, I'll be facing an assault charge, that much is inevitable, but at least now, The whole truth will be on record. Every last piece of it. And trust me, I'll be walking out of that precinct long before you claw your way out of the disaster you created. The air went still. For a split second, time seemed to stop. Lana collapsed into a chair, burying her face in her hands. Aveline's eyes burned with rage, but her voice caught in her throat, and her phone slipped from her fingers, dangling uselessly by her side. Only Whitney made a sound. Quiet, broken sobs beside Tristan, who sat hunched, gently wiping blood from his busted lip. Gavin, exhausted and aged by the moment, dragged a hand down his weary face. "This can't be real," he mumbled. "Lana, please tell me you didn't actually help them steal from Carter." Lana nodded, a silent flood of tears tracking down her cheeks, then snapped, her grief morphing into fury. She whipped her head toward me and spit her words like venom. "You didn't have to turn this into some sick performance," she yelled. "You could have just walked away." "Walk away?" I barked, my arms slicing through the air in disbelief. "After everything you've done to me, you think I should just disappear quietly?" This wasn't about money. It never was. You all wanted to ruin me, drag my name through the mud, laugh behind my back, call me spineless in your little chats. Did any of you ever stop to think what happens when the so-called pushover finally fights back? No one answered, not even Aveline, who was rarely able to resist a biting comment. The silence was suffocating, the tension sharp enough to cut skin. Their lies were unraveling, their false sense of control slipping through their fingers. Whitney guided Tristan carefully to the couch. He averted his gaze, brushing the darkening bruise along his jaw. Whitney turned to me, her face streaked with tears. "I'm sorry, Carter," she said, barely audible. Her voice trembled like a snapped wire. "It just happened. Tristan was there and you—" Her words broke. "You were always so distant. I felt like I was completely alone." My voice sliced through her excuses. "Don't you dare blame this on me. When you needed financial help, I gave without hesitation. When you asked for space, I gave you that too. Everything you asked for, I gave freely. And in return, you mocked me. You conspired against me." A flash of rage twisted her features. "Fine," she snapped. "You want the truth? Yeah, we laughed at you. You had no clue. We never thought you'd actually grow a spine, let alone become this." "A monster?" I repeated, my laugh bitter and cold. "I didn't turn into a monster, Whitney. You built one with your lies. You think I wanted this? I didn't. But you pushed me into a corner. You left me with nothing. So I did what I had to do. I adapted. I became exactly what you made me." She trembled, the fight draining out of her as fear took its place. "You'll never get custody of Betrayal," she hissed. "You've resorted to violence. No judge will hand her over to you now." I let the silence speak for a moment before slowly reaching into my jacket and pulling out my phone. The screen lit up with the messages, text chains between her and Aveline, schemes to bait me, plans to fake abuse stories for court. But that wasn't all. I had dates, timestamps, even voice recordings, video clips, proof of her betrayal, evidence of her and Tristan. This wasn't just betrayal, it was criminal. "You've lost everything," I said flatly. "And if you think for 1 second you can dangle Betrayal like some kind of bargaining chip, I will drown you in legal filings so deep you'll forget what the sky looks like." My voice dropped, deadly calm. "Don't test me." For the first time, true fear flickered in her eyes. This wasn't about shame or scandal anymore. She finally realized who she was up against. A father she had written off, now her worst enemy in a courtroom. The roast Aveline had made remained untouched on the dining table. No one even glanced at it. We all stayed there, frozen in that vast living room, surrounded by the collapse of our fake smiles and manufactured loyalties. Tristan stared at the floor, flinching as blood continued to stain his shirt collar. Lana's sobs were relentless. Aveline's icy expression had shattered entirely, cracks spreading across what used to be a perfectly composed facade. At last, Aveline cleared her throat, voice trembling with fake diplomacy. "Let's take a moment. Carter, maybe we can talk. Find a way through this. We're still family." "Not anymore," I said, my tone like stone. "There will be no secret arrangements. You've destroyed every last bridge." Gavin turned slowly to Lana, disbelief clouding his face. "You actually did this?" he asked. "You threw away our entire life? For what? A scheme?" Lana's voice was barely a breath. "Mom said it couldn't fail. Whitney swore you wouldn't find out." She trailed off, dissolving into full-blown sobs. But there was no remorse for what they'd done, just the pain of being exposed. Aveline pressed her fingers to her temples, as if she could force the chaos back into control. Her eyes flicked to mine, this time with something close to desperation. "There has to be a way," she murmured. "We can fix this, repay you, apologize." "With what?" I barked. "The money's gone. Your apologies mean nothing now, just more lies in a different disguise." Her lips pressed into a firm line. "We just need time to think." I didn't let her finish. "No. Here's what's going to happen," I said. "The divorce is finalized. You'll each get served before the week is out. My focus now is Brielle, her safety, her future. As for the fraud, that's separate. My lawyer's already building the case. All your little family-only chat logs, the parts about forging my signature, draining my savings, the prosecutor's going to eat it up." Aveline's face drained of color. "You'd really lock up the mother of your child? That's heartless." "She made her own bed," I said, my voice like steel. "Still, maybe there's a path to negotiation. Get your lawyers involved." Lana doubled over slightly, clutching her stomach like the words had physically struck her. "And what about me?" I barely looked her way. "Gavin, if you're serious, I'll put you in contact with my attorney. You can comb through the evidence yourself." He nodded silently, his expression hollow, the weight of reality sinking in. Lana seemed to shrink in her chair, as if trying to vanish. For a brief second, I almost felt sorry for him. He'd gotten tangled in the same web I once did. Tristan struggled to his feet, steadying himself with Whitney's arm. He seemed like he wanted to speak, his eyes searching mine, words failing on his tongue. "Carter, But there was nothing left to say. No sentence would undo the damage. I turned my back, my pulse still surged with adrenaline, the kind that burns cold, part justice, part grief. I'd crossed a line I never thought I would, becoming someone who meets betrayal with strategy, not sorrow. My gaze shifted to Aveline. "Don't even think about contacting me. Don't try to reach Brielle through back channels. If you so much as mention my name for leverage," I added, "you'll be answering to law enforcement. Understood?" She nodded, barely able to hide the panic in her eyes. "Yes." Then I turned to Whitney. Her cheeks were streaked with tears, but the crying had passed. Now she just looked empty. "Pack your things," I said quietly. "Go stay with your mother, or with him." I gestured sharply toward Tristan. "But don't return to my house unless it's for visitation, official and supervised, or to pick up your things with a cop present. Your days of comfort are done." Whitney looked like she wanted to protest, but the words never left her lips. She understood. It was over. Within the week, Miss Pierce filed a barrage of legal documents, restraining orders, custody petitions, lawsuits for fraud and embezzlement. Gavin joined our side, revealing even more layers of deception. The way Aveline and Whitney had stashed money, beyond anything I'd imagined. The walls closed in fast. Tristan tried to reach out once, called my phone. I let it ring. He left a voicemail, some sentimental plea about our shared past. "We've been through everything together. Don't let it end like this." I deleted it. Didn't respond. Some wounds go too deep. Words spread like wildfire. Aveline became the target of a criminal investigation for orchestrating elaborate financial scams. She'd even forged her relatives' signatures to open credit lines. Lana spiraled when Gavin froze their finances and countersued. Their empire of luxury collapsed almost overnight. As for Tristan, his wife Nora finally saw the full picture. She'd suspected cheating, but never thought I'd be the one to expose it all. She filed for divorce immediately, took their 2 kids, and didn't stop there. She called every mutual friend, told them exactly what he'd done. Within weeks, the quiet neighborhood we all shared turned into a battleground of litigation. Depositions, asset seizures, private settlements behind closed doors. Aveline, Whitney, and Lana tried to negotiate. Miss Pierce shot down every offer. She demanded full restitution, said I had more to gain than I realized. But that wasn't my priority. Betrayal was. I pushed for full custody, citing Whitney's manipulation, deceit, and emotional instability. The court reviewed the mountain of evidence and granted me sole custody, pending a full review. Whitney was granted only limited supervised visits. Supervised because the judge feared she might emotionally manipulate Betrayal, or worse, take her. That was the final blow. Her crimes weren't just financial. She'd betrayed the sacred role of a mother. Using our child as a pawn, that was something no court could overlook. Months passed. I moved into a new house. Not flashy, just real. A home where Betrayal could feel safe. Painted her room the color she loved. Signed her up for art classes after school. I did everything I could to give her a calm, consistent life. Whitney tried to twist the story in court, claimed she was the victim, even pointed to my outburst at Aveline's as proof I was unstable. But Miss Pierce dismantled every accusation, producing months' worth of messages where Whitney openly joked about baiting me for use in court. The judge wasn't buying it. By then, public sympathy had vanished. No one stood by her or Aveline anymore. The fraud and theft charges were still in motion, and I was ready to testify when the day came. After one custody session, Whitney approached me in the corridor. Her mascara had run, hair unkempt, eyes hollow from sleepless nights. "Carter," she murmured. "I'm sorry. I know I screwed up. I don't want to lose Betrayal. I didn't mean for it to go this far." "Stop," I cut in, my voice sharp as glass. "I'm not that man you once manipulated." She broke into fresh tears. The man I used to be might have offered a hand, tried to comfort her. But that man was gone. All I saw now was someone who'd lied, stolen, and laughed while doing it. "You made this mess," I said coldly. "Now face the consequences." Then I turned and walked away. About a week later, I saw Tristan outside a diner. He looked gaunt, exhausted, the faint scar from our last confrontation still visible on his cheek. He hadn't been eating, hadn't been sleeping either by the look of him. "Carter," he said, voice barely holding steady. I'm sorry." Everything unraveled. Nora, the kids, my career, all slipped through my fingers. And it was my fault. No excuses. Maybe it was the drinking, maybe the reckless decisions, probably both. Either way, I let everyone down, especially Whitney. She needed someone steady, and I was nowhere close. I slammed the car door shut and stalked toward him, stopping so close I could see the panic flash in his eyes. He recoiled, just a little, like he knew what was coming. "You didn't just mess up once," I said, voice low and tight. "You saw an opening and kept pushing. Again and again. For months." He swallowed hard, guilt radiating off him like heat. "I know I can't take any of it back," he said, barely above a whisper. "But we've known each other for years. If there's even a sliver of you that—" I let out a dry, bitter laugh, cutting him off. "I gave you everything, Tristan. My trust, my friendship. And you stomped all over it. And now, what? You want pity? Because your world's on fire? I'm fresh out." He gave a slow, resigned nod, eyes brimming. "You're right." He turned to leave, but then stopped, reaching out and brushing my arm. I tensed, fists clenched. For a second, I almost swung again. Just, "If you see Nora," he said, voice cracking, "tell her I'm sorry." I pulled my arm away. "That's not on me. If you want forgiveness, go find it yourself. But don't expect it from me." He walked off without another word, shoulders slumped, nothing left of the man I used to call my best friend. Just a shell. Once, a long time ago, we were inseparable, two kids who thought they were untouchable. Maybe deep inside some part of me mourned that. But that connection? It was long dead. I let him walk away, and I didn't look back. A few months later, the divorce finalized. I kept most of what we'd built together, the money, the assets, even part of the house sale. Some of it I had to fight for in court, but I got it. Whitney, Lana, and Aveline ended up facing charges. Lawyers were deep into negotiations for plea deals. And Brielle? She was thriving. New school, new passions, and a father who finally showed up, really showed up, in every way that mattered. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.